Hi, my name's Sophie Wood from Buzz Web Design and Consultancy, and we're a small web design agency that also offers digital solutions for healthcare professionals. Today I'm doing a video which is a overview of Gutenberg, which is the new WordPress editor that is about to land in WordPress 5 in November. If you currently use WordPress and you create posts and pages, then you need to know about Gutenberg, so please watch the video. Hi, so here we are in a basic demo site for WordPress. So I've just done a blank install of WordPress, and the first thing that you'll notice is if you go to your dashboard, you may find on your own websites that you'll now see this screen actually displayed, which is encouraging you to, even in this version of WordPress before WordPress 5, is encouraging you to actually install Gutenberg. So you can certainly do that and have a practice with it as well, which is what we're going to do today. Also, you can install the classic editor as well, so you've got both of them kind of working side by side. So I'm just going to go ahead and install Gutenberg. And then I'm going to activate Gutenberg. And the first thing it does actually on activation is it'll take you into a new post, and it will actually have this this screen here, which is giving you a little demo of how to use it. So I'm just going to come out of that for the moment. And immediately what you'll actually see is that we've got this box here, which is actually the title of the post, which is Welcome to Gutenberg. We can't actually see the text on that, so let me just blank that element out so we can actually see it all. So this is the actual title of your post. The next section here is actually where we start to go into the new editing for Gutenberg. This is actually a block, so this is what's known as an image block or a cover image block. And if we go further down and just hover over the text here, what we've got is a paragraph block as well. And this is how the new editor actually works. It actually works on the basis of these blocks, and a block can be many things. It can be an image, it can be a paragraph, it can be a headline, it can be a table, which we'll look at later on because that's one of the new features that's quite interesting to take a peek at. But first thing, let's have a look at the some of the options that are actually on the screen. So you'll notice over here you've got this little button here, which is where you can add a new block. There are other ways of adding a block as well, which I'll show you, but that's one way of doing it. You've also got the ability to undo and also to redo as well, which is quite useful. And you've got this information button that gives you actually information about the post. So it'll tell you how many words you've got, how many headlines you've got in there, the paragraphs you've got, and the blocks in total as well. So this is saying we've got actually 36 blocks in total. So we've got the title here, we've got some of the H2 headings as well, so it's showing you some of the headings. So that's quite a useful option, that information block up there. So over on the right hand side of the screen, you've got the ability to actually save the post as well, as normal, to save it as a draft. You can preview it, which works as normal as well, no change there. And then obviously you've got the publish button as well. If you click on the little cog here, all that does is toggle on and off this display here. And this panel of information is showing you, firstly, if you click on document, it's showing you the document status and all the things you'd normally expect to see associated with your post or page. And then you've got the block option, which changes according to a block that you've actually got selected. So if you've got a text box selected, then it'll show you some options to do with that. If you've got an image one, options to go with that as well. So that's all this panel is actually doing, and that's certainly all this button is doing. It's just toggling that panel on and off. So nothing too dramatic there. The little kind of 3 buttons here, if you click on those, there's some options here. So one of them is the unified toolbar, which if I click on that, what you'll notice is this toolbar here jumps from being present on a block to actually being present at the top of the screen. So let me just do that again so you can see that. So if you click off it, then it's actually jumping down to be present on the blocks. So you can see it's here and here. And then if I click it off, then it jumps up to the top of the screen. Again, that's a preference thing really as to where you prefer to actually have it. Personally, I prefer to actually have that toolbar actually within each of the blocks, so I'm actually going to keep that checked off. Other options that we've got here, spotlight mode, not particularly helpful. I think that just tells you what is currently the active block that you're working on at the moment. So all the other blocks are kind of shaded out. So if I click on the image, that's what I'm working on, so that's bolded, and the others are shaded. So if I click on the paragraph, again, the image is shaded out. So that's all that option is doing. I'll take that off, I don't particularly like that. Full screen mode is just distraction-free writing, which they had on the old editor as well. They've just called it something different here. I'm going to take that off. And also you've got a couple of other options here. You've got the visual editor, which is what we're showing here. You can go into a specific code editor, which is where you're actually editing the HTML direct. Probably not appropriate if you're just getting used to using WordPress, but there's more for kind of experienced users editing website code specifically. And you've got some tools down here. You've got this option here, manage all reusable blocks, which I'll explain later on. That's one of the new things within Gutenberg that I think is actually quite useful. Show tips. This just takes you back to the walkthrough that was on before, so the little kind of demo showing you exactly what you can do. So you might find that one helpful to use. I'll just take it off for the moment. You've got keyboard shortcuts, so you can move around the screen a lot quicker if you want to. I have heard mention that some of these may conflict with a PC, some of the shortcuts that you use on a PC. I don't use those myself. I tend to actually just move around the screen, just pointing and clicking. That's kind of what I prefer. The last option, very simple, just copies all your content. Doesn't do anything else, doesn't tell you anything else, just says, okay, it's been copied, and that's it. And you can obviously paste it somewhere else, another page or post, or somewhere outside of WordPress. So that's a tour really of the kind of, well, an intro tool, to be honest, which is just going through these buttons across the top and a little bit about blocks. So what I'll do now is I'll pause the video and we'll go and start from scratch and actually create a post from scratch and start to build up our own blocks, and there I can actually demo a little bit more about how the blocks work and how you can kind of build them up on your post. Okay, so here we are in the normal WordPress screen for creating posts. So I'm just in posts, all posts at the moment, and we've got the Welcome to Gutenberg post that we were looking at before, and the standard kind of Hello World one that comes with WordPress. You'll notice because I've got Gutenberg activated, and also I've got the classic editor activated as well on this version of WordPress, it actually gives me this drop down here, so I can actually create a post either in Gutenberg or I can use the classic editor, which is quite handy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go into Gutenberg. So this should create a new post. So here we are in the screen that we're looking at before. So we can see that we've got the options across the top, and the first thing that we're actually taken to is the post title. So I'm just going to call this one Gutenberg Demo Post. That's it, and I'm going to save it as a draft. So just click on the save button there. Right, okay, so let's take a look at some of the options that we've got here. So the first thing that you'll actually notice is when you move away from the post title, you've actually already got an option to create a block here, or actually a text block is ready to go if you want. So I'm just going to paste, I'm going to click into that, and if you let me just do that again so you can see it. So at the moment I'm kind of outside it and I'm getting these options. I'm getting this plus option over here, and I'm getting some options here which are the most frequently used blocks. Those usually come up on the right hand side. But if I click in it, then I can actually start to paste some text in. So I've just got some Lorem Ipsum text that I'm just going to paste in. So I'm just going to pop that in. And the first thing you'll notice is we get this toolbar across the top. And remember that toolbar actually came from this option here, Unified Toolbar. Because I've not actually got that toggled on, I'm getting the toolbar appearing on each of the blocks, which is exactly what I wanted. So I can go in here and just use it as normal, so I can sort of split things out. But you'll notice as I'm doing that, I'm actually creating more blocks. So we've now actually got 3 blocks, which is quite interesting to notice. So you can actually find that you're building these up. So again, if I go to an element of the text, just click return, then I've got 3 blocks, 4 blocks actually now. If I don't want one of those, then I can actually just go to the 3 buttons here, and I can just say remove block. Again, just go to another block, and I can remove it if I want to. The other thing I can do is you'll notice I've got these options here, and these allow me to actually move a block up and down. So if I wanted to, then I could actually have this as the starting block. I'd just click onto the arrows over here, and it just actually moves it up gradually like that. You also can actually do this through kind of point and click as well, but it's a little bit difficult to kind of see. But what you'll notice as I'm moving across away from the text, my pointer is actually changing into a hand. When it's changed into a hand, I can actually click on that and move the block elsewhere. So I can actually move it down the screen, although that didn't work for some reason. I see, so that actually works when you can see, when you get the actual blue line, then I can drop it in. So if you haven't got the blue line, it's not going to work. So you need to get the blue line, got the blue line there, and just drop it down like that, and that's it. So that's a number of ways you can actually move text around. That's quite handy. That's something that you couldn't do in the old version very easily. The kind of old editor, you'd have to kind of copy and paste text elsewhere. So that's quite handy. If we decide we want to create a new block, so we'll just go down here. I've hit return, so I can create it. Remember, I can create a new block by hitting return, or I can use the plus button over here. So those are the 2 ways you can actually create a block, which is obviously quite good to know. If I click on the plus button there, I've got an option of what type of block I'm going to create. And it's given me quite a few options here. I can also search for them as well. So rather than having to sort of run through all of these different options, I can actually just say, okay, well, I know it's an image one, so I'll just call image, and it'll give me all the blocks to do with images, which is quite handy. So we just take that out. So at the moment we've got a lot of the standard blocks: paragraph 1, image 1, heading 1, gallery, list, quote, audio, cover image, file. File's actually quite an interesting block on here as well. You've got inline elements, so you've got this particular option here if you want to have some text and an image kind of merging together side by side. So you've got inline image there. You've got what are known as common blocks, which is the ones we were looking at before, so the most commonly kind of used ones. You've got some formatting ones as well. And we'll cover these probably in a different video, but you have an option to go to a classic editor as well for a particular block. There is a reason for that being there. You might think that's quite odd, but in another video I'll explain how you might use that one. And then you've got the option to put in some code again. This will be kind of short codes or specific kind of HTML code. This option here, some of you might find useful. It's a table one. So you'd have an option within a post to create a table, so columns and rows, and that might be quite useful for a lot of people. Certainly you couldn't do that in the last editor. And then you've got this other one, verse, which will just be a kind of a text styling option more than anything else. And you've got some layout options here. You can have a button. That's quite useful. You couldn't do that before, and you can style them quite nicely. And that obviously is quite good for grabbing people's attention when they come to read your post. And you've got columns. Now in this version it's still in beta, but I expect when they release Gutenberg for real in version 5 of WordPress, that'll obviously be kind of a full-blown version. I've actually used it and it does actually work fine, but they've obviously got some concerns over it at the moment. But that's a quite handy option as well, so the ability to be able to have columns of text or columns of images is quite handy. You've got the usual separators, more, page break, separator and spacer as well, so you can kind of style up the way you want your post to look a little bit more easily. You've got access to some of the standard WordPress widgets. You can actually put in latest comments and latest posts as well. Latest posts is quite a handy one to pop in as well. That's worthwhile having a play around with. And then you've got the ability to embed here, so you can embed a YouTube video if you want. Literally just click on that, paste in your share from YouTube, and that's it. The same goes with the others as well. So and there's a whole raft of them here. So that's kind of a whistle-stop tour of all of the blocks that you can get. To be honest, you'll probably find you're mostly using paragraph, image and heading more than anything else, and probably the column one I think might be quite handy as well, so we'll have a go at using that. But for this one, let's just pop an image in. So I'm going to click on the image block, and the first thing it does is it gives me the options that are appropriate for this block across the top here, and it gives me this standard interface for actually pulling an image in. So if I just go to the media library here, and let me just select, let's just go for that particular image. There we go, and that's it. I've dropped an image in, and we can have a caption for it as well. Image block, Gutenberg. You've got some options here, so you can actually align left, align centre, align right. So nothing kind of too extraordinary about that. You've got a little bit of control over the formatting of the caption here. You can put it in bold. But what you'll notice is when you hover over a block, and if you click on the block option over here, just let me hover over that and click on that, then you can actually get some options to do with the image. And these used to be able to get these before, but there was quite a few clicks before you could get to it. So now you literally just click on the actual image, and then you're getting them over on the right hand side. So you can put some alternative text in. You can control the size of the image as well. So we could just make that a little bit smaller if we wanted to. Could reduce by 50%. And you can link to particular files as well. So it's quite handy the way that's done. Let me just actually put that back to a kind of full image. Same if you go on a paragraph one. So if I click on a paragraph one, then you can see over on the right hand side I'm getting settings to do with the paragraph option. So you can even have something called a drop cap as well, which can be quite nice on sort of larger chunks of text. You don't have much control over the size of it, etc., but it's quite a nice feature that you might want to use. Let me just take that off at the moment. You can control the size of the text if you want to as well, which is quite handy. So we could make that quite diddy if we wanted to, or bigger. You've got some controls over the centering of it as normal. You can right align, left align, and you could do all of that with the old kind of editor. So there's nothing new there. It's just the way you're actually accessing it. So on this particular block, the other thing we can do is we've got the 3 dots here, and you get the same if you click on that one, 3 dots there. So each of the blocks kind of look the same. So if you click on that one there, then you can actually hide the block settings if you want to, which I don't kind of want. I quite like that. You can duplicate a particular block. you have other options to move things around. So other than actually kind of grabbing a block and moving it up and down the page, you can actually do it kind of manually almost from here. You can edit a block as HTML, so direct kind of website code if you want to. If you've got a particular block that you intend to kind of reuse across your website, so maybe it has some text in to do with your kind of bio or kind of a call to action of some sort, then you could add it as a reusable block, and then whenever you're going into a post, you can just drop that reusable block in. And I think that's quite handy. I think you could kind of get quite a bank of those set up, and I think that would actually save some time. So that's certainly worthwhile looking at. Okay, so let's have a look at another block. So if we go down here, I'm going to click on the plus sign, and let's have a look at the. See if we can get to the column one. So if we let's try button. That's quite handy. So if we have a look at the button one here, so the first thing it wants to do is, okay, well, where do you want the button to go to? So I'm just going to say I want this button to go to, just say Google for the moment. That's it. How do you want the text to actually appear? So I'm highlighting the button, and again over on the right hand side it's giving me some options. Well, I'd like it to be an orange button, and I'd like the text to be black, which is fine. That's quite clear. The other thing you could do is you could make it not too sure what that's doing actually. That doesn't look particularly helpful. Oh, I see, it's just blanking it out. So let's just call this submit if we wanted to, and see what other options we've got here. You can align it in the centre, you can align it over on the right. I usually put them over on the right, that's quite good. So that's kind of a button, and that's quite handy. So if we just, let me just save that and let me just show you how that actually looks. So if we go to preview the post, again just clicking on the preview button over here, then you can see this is how our post's actually looking at the moment. So we've got our image, and then we've got the submit button here as well. So we could click on that, and that would actually take us over to Google. So that's quite a new function that's quite handy to have. Okay, so let's create a column block here. So if we just click on that button, click on columns, and as you can see, I've immediately got two columns here. It's a little bit tricky on the columns to actually see, but what you've actually got is you've got two kind of you've got two blocks within a block essentially. So the outside block is actually the column kind of wrapper, and so you can see I've got these two kind of borders. So if I click on the outside one, then I've actually over on the right hand side I've got an option to create some more. So I could actually, let's just take that up to 3. Okay, and then if I go in to one of these, I can actually add some I can add an image in. So let's try adding an image. Let's just pop that image in, and then I could think, okay, well, I'd like some text next to that. So let me just paste in some text that I've got. It's perhaps a little bit too much. Let me get rid of that. There we go. And then over here, let me just pop in another image. So have the hands in there as well. Okay, so you can see that's quite nifty. You've got these 3 columns, and that's, I think, for creating posts and pages, that's quite a handy thing to be able to do from just within the editor. It does take a little bit of getting used to that option, and I think certainly the idea that you've got these blocks within the column kind of wrapper, so you just have to kind of make sure you're clicking on the right thing. So if you wanted to add another column in, make sure you're clicking on the outside wrapper, and then you could move that up to 4 if you wanted to. Let's just take that down for the moment. So that's the columns one, which is quite handy. And again, on all of these, it's a similar kind of process that you would actually follow. Let's have a look at the heading one, but let's create a heading higher up. So if I go here and I think, okay, well, I'd like a kind of subheading here, then what I can do is I can actually click on the box here and I can actually insert a block, which didn't appear to work. Let me try that again. No, it's not having that, is it? Okay, so insert before. Sorry, I'm doing that wrong. So when you click on that, let me just come out of that. Then I need to click on the actual 3 buttons and go insert before. There we go. And I'm going to have this as a heading, so I'll click on that. And I actually want it to be, well, let's stick with heading 2. So let's just call it image and column demo. And that's it. And I could go down here and let's do that again. So I could think, okay, well, let's actually have, let me get to the column itself. Again, just going on the outside. Let's say insert before, and we'll have this as another heading again, but let's put this as a heading 3, and this is just going to be called 3 columns. And that's it. So that's essentially kind of how it works. And as I say, you can move things up and down in a variety of different ways. So you could just actually move it up using the arrows here to reorder it, move it back down using the arrows there, or you could actually remove the block completely, or add it to reusable blocks. There's a whole variety of things you can actually do with these. And it is quite flexible the way it works, and you can also grab them and move them around, which I think is one of the real kind of benefits of this. So if we just get that hand back, and let's just move through that again so you can see that. So you can see it's moving now. I've got hold of it, so I've got my hand, but as I'm moving it around, I can only drop it where I'm getting this blue line. If I don't get the blue line, it's not going to drop anywhere. It's just going to go back the way it came from. So let me just think how I want to. Let me just drop it back up here. Let's pop it there for the moment. And that's it, and you can move them around. And that's quite nice. So that's it. So that's Gutenberg in a nutshell, really. Just a very brief kind of overview of it. It works on these blocks. You can have many different types of blocks. And you can do lots of things with them, specifically create the buttons, but also you can actually put these nice kind of columns in, which I think is a real bonus. And you can also add tables, which again I think a lot of people would find quite useful. It does take getting used to. I mean, you'll notice as I'm going through the demonstration, you know, things are a little bit, it doesn't feel fluid for me to actually use it. But I think over time that would actually happen, and I could see going back to the classic editor would actually start to kind of infuriate me with the lack of flexibility of it. Either way, this is the way WordPress is going. So Gutenberg is kind of here to stay. They're only going to be adding more things to it, and I'm optimistic that some of the additional features are going to be quite handy in terms of enriching kind of your content creation process and giving you more kind of diversity as to where you place images and how you format things. I'll be posting a few more images and demos on Gutenberg as well, so keep a lookout for them, because I want to go into a few more kind of advanced features on it, certainly how you kind of can work with your reusable blocks as well, so I think that's one of the handy ones. So that's it for the moment. Thanks very much for listening and watching.